I've heard whispers about the financial support your government receives from the drug industry.
Well, the irony of this, of course, is that this money, which is in the billions, is coming from your country. You see, you are the major purchaser of our national product, which is, of course, cocaine.
On one hand, you're saying the United States government is spending millions of dollars to eliminate the flow of drugs onto our streets. At the same time, we are doing business with the very same government that is flooding our streets with cocaine.
Sí. Let me show you a few of the other characters that are involved in this tragic comedy.
I'm on the border of Bolivia, working for pennies, treated like a slave. The coca fields have to be ready. The spirit of my people is starving, broken and sweaty, dreaming about revolution, looking at my machete. But the workload is too heavy to rise up in arms, and if I ran away, I know they'd probably murder my moms. So I pray to Jesucristo when I go to the mission, process the cocaine paste and play my position.
Okay, listen, Juan Valdez, just get me my product before we chop off your hands for workers' misconduct. I got the power to shoot a copper and not get charged, and it would be sad to see your family in front of a firing squad. So to feed your kids, I need these bricks, 40 tons in total, let me test it. Indeed, shit, this is good, pass me a tissue, and don't worry about them, I paid off the official.
Yo, it don't come as a challenge, I'm the son of some of the foulest, elected by my people, the only one on the ballot, born and bred to consort with feds. I laugh at fate and assassinate my predecessor to have his place in a third world fashion state. Lock the nation with 90% of the wealth and 10% of the population. A central intelligence agency takes weight faithfully. The finest type of China white and cocaine you'll see.
Honey, I'm home. Never mind when your bank account suddenly grown. It's funny, we're so out of this debt for this money we owe with ya. When have I told you that I had two governments overthrown to keep our son enrolled in a private school and to keep our tummy swollen? Come on, our fucking home was built on a foundation of bloody throats, the hungry stolen of their souls. Of course this country's running coke. I took a stunning oath to hush the ones who know. The CIA conducts the flow for these young hustlers that lust for dough.
Work in the hood, hit my connect. That's what's really good, is supply work to the hood. These suits fucking crack me up, scrutinized like we inferior, petrified when we meet in my area. My dudes gon' shoot till I say so. You got the loot, give me the yay like ice cubes, so don't play with my yayo. We gon' stop you bastards, my street scramblers, chop it and bag it.
Taking pictures and tapping phones, debating snitches and cracking codes. Fast the couple, blast the foe on any hustler stacking doughs. Pump the crack a blow, and my overtime is where your taxes go. Or gain your trust, get you to hand wait to us, cause we paid up front on the low with cameras taping you. Getting pop away, the prison sentence is doomed. Make the collar to leave with 2 keys out the evidence room.
Went my fame, truck, boat, or plane, they watching you. You think you got work? They copping too. We control blocks, they lock countries and own companies. We had nice cars and sneaker money. Now it's players out there talking about they holding with bumps in their house like they down south with windows open. Your dough ain't long, you wrong, you take shorts and soon. Feds will be up in your mouth like forks and spoons. So enjoy the rush, live plush off coke bread. Soon you'll be in a cell with me like Jenny Lopez. In the school I was a bully, now life is fully a joke. I keep afloat on a boat for Peruvian coke. Players do favors for governors and tax makers. Fat Quakers smoke crack and sex acts with bad mayors. The walls got ears, you big mouths probably scared, not prepared to do years like Javier. The story just told is an example of the path that drugs take on their way to every neighborhood in every state in this country. It's a lot deeper than the niggas on your block. So when they point the finger at you, brother man, this is what you gotta tell them.
I'm not guilty. You're the one who's guilty. Lawmakers, the politicians, the Colombian drug lords, all you who lobby against making drugs legal, just like you did with alcohol during the Prohibition. You're the one who's guilty. I mean,
government narcotics trafficking and how it's
no
tied
into
made
in Harlem.
Gun running.
Not one of us in here owns a poppy field.
Over
this thing
Central
is bigger than
and South America.
This is big
and
business.
In Asia and the Middle East.
The
now, you'll remember last year, because many U.S. military troops in Afghanistan were talking about the fact that they're forced to help grow opium, supply the fertilizer, transport, and security to the Taliban growing the opium, that in response to that, and the fact that it was coming out in foreign press, the people that control the mainline corporate media, propagandists in this country, came out and said, oh, you know what, on Fox, CNN, BBC, ABC News, it was all the same style newscast, same talking points. Yes, the troops helped grow the opium, and we just showed you a screenshot of the video that's on YouTube of Geraldo Rivera talking to the Marine Corps colonel, where he admits they helped grow and protect the opium. So I thought I would just show that to you before we get into the other news, and a little bit more of the background, because we don't just show you the latest news, we give you the background info, but the federal government has been caught again shipping cocaine into the United States and controlling certain pet drug cartels that they use to wage war against their competition. You will remember that earlier in 2011, in April, the London Guardian broke, and then Bloomberg got even more information on $376 billion of narcotics money out of Mexico, laundered through Wachovia and their parent company, Wells Fargo. Now, they had to pay a tiny fine on the $300+ billion of $160 million, and no one got in trouble at Wachovia or Wells Fargo, despite the fact in the plea deal they admitted they were leasing and running the aircraft. Remember a few years ago, the CIA jet, torture jet, crashed in Mexico with 4 tons of pure cocaine. And again, Wachovia, according to MSNBC, then settled for $160 million. Continuing, this dovetails with the new breaking news out of the El Paso Times, not breaking for our viewers. This is Paul Joseph Watson for Infowars.com, April 27th, 2011. It was our great tipsters looking through the federal filings that sent us this filing and many, many others. It turned out this had been filed since September 24th, 2010. We'll give you a screenshot of that and the memorandum for the evidence that they brought in. And what was the evidence of one of the top Mexican drug cartel leaders sent to Chicago to face drug trafficking charges? He brought into evidence Jesus Vicente Zambada Nabella, son of the biggest kingpin in Mexico, El Mayo Garcia. Well, it turns out, and they've now provided the documents, that for 5 years he was working under the orders of the United States government and laundering the money through U.S. banks that they were ordered to launder it through. Thought we'd go over that background information before we gave you the mainstream media now, many months after we covered it, finally getting into it. And we commend the reporters, Diana Washington Valdez at the El Paso Times, for covering it. Documents. Feds allegedly allowed Sinaloa cartel to move cocaine to the U.S. for information. And it says as long as they gave them information on the other cartels, they would be left alone. And then Los Zetas, publicly trained, and we told you this 6 years ago before it even happened, from Celi Castil, former DEA agent. He said the U.S. has trained tens of thousands of Mexican troops. They're going to claim that they defect the Los Zetas, but really it's going to be a Western bank-funded war against the other 3 big cartels that aren't laundering their money through big U.S. banks now caught publicly laundering that money. Continuing here, here is our report from July 8th, 2011. This has been reported by the federal police in Mexico. Los Zetas kingpin, we bought guns directly from the U.S. government. The ATF didn't just allow the sale of tens of thousands to select drug cartels that they're allied with, who are knocking out their competition. No, leaders of Los Zetas have also provided the Mexican police with documentation that the U.S. arms were shipped directly to them, and that's the report. If you'd like to see it, Los Zetas kingpin, we bought guns directly from U.S. government. Now, the reason I raise that information is that we have now learned, and this is in major papers all over the United States, but it broke in Miami, that the ATF has been working with the DEA and the FBI to ship guns not just into Mexico, but into Honduras and into cities like Miami, Chicago, and Los Angeles, and that the drug gangs are being used to knock out their competition. So it's the big mega banks fighting over a $500 billion a year industry, and the cartels that ally themselves with the CIA and select U.S. and Western-based banks are left alone and protected. Others are killed. Now, all of this is basically imploding right now and coming out because honorable ATF agents, and here's the Fox News report dealing with that, have come out since 5 cops have been killed and 3 Border Patrol agents with guns they helped ship in, and have said, look, we were ordered to do this. It's been going on for many years, and it's time for this to stop. So that is the rest of the story. As Paul Harvey would say, on narcotics trafficking here in the United States, and why our government is shipping guns into Mexico and other areas to arm the gangs that are allied with them to knock out their competition. Now, the domestic angle is that despite the fact the Justice Department's been caught perjuring themselves and lying to Congress, that's now admitted, and that the White House was in command of this entire situation, despite that, they are still now trying to pass more gun restrictions in the U.S. in the name of curbing violence in Mexico, which they actually contributed to. So this is a false flag frame-up of the Second Amendment that has happened. And as the El Paso Times says, this could be as big as the Fast and Furious gun running. Well, it is as big. In fact, it's bigger. It is the rest of the story, and it is intricately connected to the narcotics trade.
Back on April 27th of this year, we ran the headline out of federal documents that were made public in federal court that listeners pointed out to us. We ran the news story, Top Mexican Drug Lord, I Traffic Cocaine for the U.S. Government, written by Paul Joseph Watson for Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Now, when I got off the air yesterday, Aaron ran over, Aaron Dykes, and he said, you haven't seen this? And I said, no. He goes, well, it's been on InfoWars all day, our link to it. And so I read the report, did some more research, and I said, I think we reported on this. And I went and looked it up, and we sure did. The part that the El Paso Times does not cover is that he and others he's associated with in this cartel have said they also were involved in getting guns and were involved in Fast and Furious, and this nexuses it in. Now, the Associated Press, Florida papers, of course, broke it, 2-3 weeks ago, have all reported that Fast and Furious, ATF, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives, they're always adding new things onto their name, and the FBI and DEA have been involved shipping thousands of guns, not just to Mexico, but to Miami and other areas, to select gangs that are waging covert wars against drug cartels that are not paying their cut. And I talked about, of course, the Reuters report back in 1999 when Richard Grasso, then head of the New York Stock Exchange, traveled, and it mentioned, well, there's a little-known federal law that actually drug money from overseas can be invested in U.S. banks and the stock market. And he was there encouraging, and it showed them meeting the head of the FARC. You can dig up the photo, the head of the FARC guerrillas down in Colombia, big beard. I forget his name. You can look it up. And he said, invest with us or you're going to be invaded. They gave him a year. He didn't invest. They ended up killing him. And, of course, the U.S. military invaded down there, called it drug interdiction. And it's admitted that they have grids they fly where the government-grown cocaine that's laundered through the U.S. is left alone. And then they find FARC fields of coca, and those are sprayed. So it's a business operation. And the list goes on and on. Vietnam and the coffins full of heroin, confirmed congressional hearings. The 1980s, Iran-Contra, shipping guns down there to knock out the drug competition, ship the cocaine back.